Hello, friends, and welcome to Season 11 of the Future Ready Librarians podcast series, Leading from the Library. This is a podcast for all librarians wherever you are in your journey. It is filled with amazing guests, important topics, and engaging conversations that will inspire, engage, and support all of us as future ready librarians. I am your host, Shannon McClintock Miller. I am the district teacher librarian at Van Meter Community School in Van Meter, Iowa, and serve as the Future Ready Librarians Leader. I have the pleasure of working within my library and school community and also with others around the country and world through Future Ready Librarian events, conferences, consulting, writing, and more. I am honored to bring these voices and the work of others to our podcast and to all of you. Today you're in for a real treat, and I am so excited too because I follow these two amazing librarians on their website. I'm going to let them tell you about it, but I couldn't be more excited to have Marcia and Christina on the podcast today. So thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Let's just start by having you introduce yourselves, and then we'll talk about how you two met and connected and what you're up to. So let's start with Christina.
Sure. I'm Christina Chatel. I am a media specialist at Boland Park and Smith Middle Schools in Troy, Michigan, going into my 13th year in the media center. I taught high school English for 10 years prior to this. And my middle schools are known for the Troy Berry program, which was started by our librarians 25 years ago as a mock Newberry program. And then over the years, we've kind of changed and evolved. And it really is a fantastic reading incentive program to get our middle schoolers excited about reading.
That's amazing.
And my name is Marcia Kochel. I am a middle school librarian at Druid Hills Middle School in Decatur, Georgia. And I've been here for 10 years, but I've been a school librarian for, I think this is my 28th year. 26 of those working with middle schoolers. I love the age group, love the books. I do a lot of book clubs, and like I have 16 different book clubs with my middle schoolers at school every year. And I have a library leader program with kids that they do all of our creative space activities and book displays, and they kind of they make the library what it is. So those are things that are special about my program.
I love it. Two libraries definitely that are worth a visit, it sounds like. So how did you two meet? First, just tell like maybe how you met, and then how your idea came about for Young Teen Lit.
Well, we've never actually met in person. We've only communicated via Teams or Zoom. And then we're always texting each other, emailing, etc. But I think it all started because I heard Marcia's episode on School Librarians United with Amy Herman, and I had been on the show too. And I had read Marcia's article that she had written that was in School Library Journal and really admired Marcia's work. And in the episode of School Librarians United, Marcia asked if, was anybody willing to help her? Because she felt like there was this new publishing category. So I looked her up and I emailed her, messaged her in a few different places, and we connected and just started talking.
Oh, that is amazing. And so the big thing on what we're going to talk about today is what you have created called the Young Teen Lit kind of movement and website. And so tell our listeners about what you two are up to when it comes to this.
All right. Well, we both, having worked with middle schoolers for a long time, we both were feeling this gap that there is. I think 20 years ago, there were books for middle schoolers. There were books that had 14 and 15-year-old main characters. They were considered probably lower YA because young adult used to be 12 to 18-year-olds, and there were books for those younger kids. But I think over the last 20 years or so, the publishing landscape has really shifted up, and young adult books are very, very much more mature. They have 17-year-old characters, almost exclusively 17-year-old or older main characters. They deal with a lot more, things that older kids are dealing with. And then when you look at middle grade books, they're all about 12-year-olds. And there's just a huge lack of 13, 14, 15, even 16-year-olds in the books, and therefore the books that are about, the stage of life that those kids are at. So I was just feeling that frustration every time I would look at Book List and School Library Journal and read the reviews. It's like they're all 12-year-old, they're all 17-year-olds. Like there's nothing in between. And so I wrote my article, begging really that for publishers to bring back or start a new category or bring back books for those kids in the middle. Christina was thinking the same thoughts. And so we just decided to make a name for it and to start writing some articles and putting out social media posts and things, we're really asking publishing to make us a new category, because young adult and middle grade are not serving kids that are in seventh, eighth, and ninth grades. And it's a huge gap. And we found lots of people to back that up, like actual, researchers researching these things, and also a lot of librarians and booksellers feeling the same thing. So our step one was we came up with a name. When I first wrote my article, I didn't have a name for it. I just said, we need something. And we settled on Young Teen Lit, and we created Blue Sky and Instagram accounts, and we have our website, youngteenlit.com. And then we said we need to really solidify what we're looking for. And we made up initially 5 criteria. We've added a 6th criteria now.
I know. I can't even wait to hear all the criterias. I've looked at your website, of course, and been on it, and I follow you on social too. But I couldn't agree more. And just looking, if you're listening, you won't be able to see behind Marcia, but just like looking at her shelves and thinking about my own kids in middle school. We go from 5th grade in our elementary, and they look at kind of the 5th, 6th graders look at the same books. And then we do have this gap. And then we have these books that win awards and the YA awards, but then we have middle school books too that win an award in Iowa. And I hear you, like there is a huge gap for our kids. And I think that I sit here thinking like our kids would be so excited to hear you both talk about this too, because they're the ones that our authors and our publishers really need to listen to serve the needs and the passions, and just to also listen to their voice to be able to support them too. So I'm excited to hear the criteria that you guys have set up too.
Well, I'll start off with our first criteria. As Marcia mentioned, we want these books to be developmentally appropriate for ages 12 to 15. We are so comfortable with the books being edgy, with being complex, dealing with issues that have gray areas. We are not the clean police. So we're okay. We think that the kids can handle certain things, and our YA books are written more for that older audience, and we are looking for the books that are written for this particular age group audience, and we're looking for more books that have characters in 8th to 10th grade. There are so many books that have the 7th grade narrator, so we're trying to find books that have 8th to 10th grade narrators, and that any book that's recommended for grades 3 to 5 shouldn't be included in Young Teen Lit.
Yes, so that's criteria 1. Criteria 2 is that we need a variety of genres and diverse characters. And we want books for every kid, but we have honed in on some areas that are really missing. And they are murder mysteries, probably number 1. I can't tell you already this school year how many copies of Good Girl's Guide to Murder have gone out to young kids who are probably it is really not probably they're at the appropriateness level we would like, but that is the hottest thing around and anything like it. So murder mysteries, horror is a huge need and almost non-existent at the middle school level. Action, adventure, sports, humor, and romance are where we see the need. We see a lot, if there are books with young teen characters like 14, 15, they predominantly seem to be in realistic fiction books, maybe more sort of problems in school and all that. But what we see kids really wanting is like murder mysteries and funny and horror. And so we're specifically looking for those genres. And we also completely affirm the whole movement of we need diverse books has drastically improved books for kids. And we want to keep that coming. Diversity of culture and race and gender and identity is also hugely important to our students.
So important.
Our third criteria is about book length. And this is something that I had written about last year in Teen Librarian Toolbox. So this is something that's close to my heart. But we really would like to see the books from 180 to 300 pages. And I mean, we actually really would like to have them more around the 180, 200 page mark. It just seems like everyone's attention span, adults and teens, has changed post-COVID. And I think the thicker titles are intimidating for some. We, of course, have our readers who are really excited to check out a very long book because it's going to keep them satisfied in reading for a little bit longer. And it's the challenge of that. But we really need the books with shorter lengths to grab some of those readers who are still, developing their interest in reading.
And I would add to that, I read the reviews and I order books and they come in and they're huge. And I know that there are kids that will read them and that there is a place for that, but I would say, 80% of kids, it's a non-starter. And so shorter books,
Yeah,
we need them.
definitely a plus.
Yes. So that was number 3. Number 4 is kind of short and sweet. No childish book covers. Middle grade books look like baby books to a 7th grader and an 8th grader and a 9th grader. And they gotta look like a YA book. And it's just a no-go with the typical middle grade cover.
Mm-hmm. So true.
And then our 5th criteria is we love to see books that are written the way that young teens speak. So we would love to see books that have text messaging or social media posting. We're looking for verse novels. We're looking for graphic novels that fit all of our criteria. So we think that that's a better way for kids to be able to get into reading. They're more interested in the pages that have less text on them. So verse novels, graphic novels are hugely popular at my schools. Kids are asking for those. So we love to see, I know there's been a lot of fabulous verse novels that have come out recently. We love to see more of those, keep those coming. But definitely the different formats, I think that is what interests the kids and keeps them reading.
Great.
Yeah, I heard it described as the wall of text is intimidating. And if anything to break up that wall of text and get kids in. All right, so those were our initial 5 criteria. We wrote together, we wrote an article, and that was in the School Library Journal's Teen Librarian Toolbox blog. And then we started to really look for more books, and people started sending us books, and we kind of started realizing something was missing. People are sort of telling us, oh, there are books with 14-year-olds. You're just not seeing them, and they're telling us about them. And what we realized was there are some books with 14-year-old characters, but they're not hitting us where it's going to turn kids into readers that have never read a book before. Like I said, they tend to be, some of them were fantasy and realistic, but we just decided we needed a number 6. And we went with our criteria number 6 is that we need compelling plot lines, short chapters, and books with mass appeal. And I know we can't order up the next Hunger Games or Maze Runner or Speak, but that's what we're looking for. Like, we need something that's going to be a big hit. And I think it harkens back to the genres that we need, a murder mystery and horror and humor. Um, we're we're not looking for just any old book that's about a 14-year-old. We're the ones we want to promote are going to be the ones that make a big splash. So you can probably add to that, Christina.
I was just going to say, I finished reading Sunrise on the Reaping recently by Suzanne Collins, and I just was remembering that just the intoxicating feeling of reading the Hunger Games series, and how I just didn't want to do anything but finish that book. And thank goodness it's summer that I can do that. So we want kids to have that feeling of, I don't want to put this book down. We are competing right now with TikTok and Instagram and video games and YouTube. And so we need really compelling literature to be able to do that, and to get them excited about reading.
So I love all these things, and I couldn't agree more. Working with kids, I work with kids from preschool to 12th grade in my school. And I sit here and think like how you have gotten in front of publishers or authors and what has happened like since your article or what you've heard. I would like to help too. So I'm sure that a lot of people listening are like, oh, we would all like to help get behind this.
We are still, we feel like, trying to get the attention of publishers. I think we have had the attention of booksellers, and they agree we need this. We have talked to authors and heard from authors who want to write these books. So I think that the gap is at the publishing level. I think they need to want it because we have literally heard from multiple sources that famous authors, you've seen it happen, they write YA books and then they suddenly write a middle grade book. They go from 17-year-old to 12-year-old. And we know for sure, like Angie Thomas tweeted once that she wanted to write a fantasy book for that forgotten age in the middle, but then she ended up writing a book about a 12-year-old. And Tiffany Jackson's new murder mystery came out recently, and it's great, but it's about a 12-year-old. And so we know that the publishers are telling them, this is great, write this book, but you have to make the main character 12, or this is great, write this book, but you have to make that main character 17. So we're still trying to figure out how to reach publishers. But we know that they're going to listen probably to social media. They're going to listen to it if it comes from more places. So we would love to have people going on Instagram and Blue Sky and following Young Teen Lit, reposting our posts, making your own posts and hashtagging them Young Teen Lit. When you read a good book, when you post about something that middle schoolers love, add that Young Teen Lit hashtag. Add even at the publisher, if you read a good book, at that publisher and say, thank you for writing a book with a 15-year-old character, and at that publisher. I think anytime we get in front of publishers and we can say, thank you for the books that are there, or, hey, we would love a horror book that we could get in our middle school library. I think, it needs to be heard by publishers.
And make sure to tag the authors too.
Yes.
I think it's great to talk to the authors and publishers at the conferences that librarians attend, to ask them, hey, where are your books for 13, 14-year-olds? And if we have a lot of people asking them for the books, maybe they'll start listening. We also have our website, as you mentioned, which has our criteria on it. And it has a list of books that we're suggesting as exemplars that fit 3 or more of our 6 criteria. And actually, we've just updated it. So if people have gone in a month ago, a couple months ago, and looked at it, we have some new titles on there that we have read recently and put out on our Blue Sky or our Instagram, or we haven't yet promoted them. So you guys want to go check that out. There's also an area on our website that says, wondering how to help. So you can take a look at that. And then there's also links to our articles and our podcast episodes.
Oh, that's great. Well, and I think the big thing too, like you said, is, tag authors and, make sure that, and publishers too, but make sure that, the authors that we already love or that we maybe know would be great candidates, to write these great books. I think the more that we can say, the better. And to get voices from our kids to say that too. And so it's just such an important message. And I often think that even, I look even at our kids at school and not just with books, but that's sometimes kind of an age where, kids are kind of forgotten in a way because they're not in middle school, they're not seniors in high school. And so it's so important for them to read books that they want to read. And I love that you said like books like horror books or scary books, like spot on what they want to read, right? And so I think that is such a great thing to remember too. So interesting. I want to ask too, what are your like top books right now for this age? I got my
I
pick,
can't
baby
give
girl.
you, we've posted a few of these. The Shadow Road by Kirschmeyer, I believe is his last name. A sequel's coming out soon or just came out. That was a great like dystopian future action. There were 14-year-old, a boy and a girl in two different places, and their stories kind of come together fighting these aliens. Love that. A World Worth Saving by Kyle Lukoff was excellent with 14-year-old trans character, and there were actual demons fighting against these trans kids, and it was a great story. A book, it's easy to become an issue book when you're maybe a book trying to like fighting for the rights of some group of
Yeah.
people, but this was just a solid, great story, as well as as really affirming book with empathy for a lot of different gender identities. Those are two that recently that I really liked.
And for me, there were some great romances that have been coming out with eighth grade characters. So By Forever, I guess, love that one. I've got turned my teachers onto it. They've loved it. The students have been loving it. The girls have been loving it, I should say.
Oh,
So that's a fantastic one with an eighth grade main character who's dealing with friend drama. And there's also a boy that she doesn't like, but there is another boy who she's having like this this chat conversation with that she doesn't know exactly who he is because people just randomly text message her all the time. They're like wrong number ones. And so she's created this website where she posts pictures of when people send her wrong number messages. So that's one that's been very popular. And then Nashay Jones, she's written As You Wish and Courtesy of Cupid. And those are both adorable eighth grade romance titles with a little bit of fantasy to them. So As You Wish has some African folklore to it. And Courtesy of Cupid, I think you could tell from the title that she's going to be playing Cupid in the book. So those were some romance ones that I thought were really, really cute.
I'm adding those to my list right after this. I love it. Well, and your site is fantastic, and I think that it's so great to follow what you're doing on social. And so tell everybody where they can find those two online.
So our Blue Sky is Young Teen Lit. And then on Instagram, it's young_teen lit.
Mm-hmm.
So find us on both of those places. And sometimes, we post different things on either of them. Just recently, we posted about we want more books like these. And that post has been really popular. We had a graphic of all of these YA books that are very popular or that our middle schoolers are asking for, that we would love to see, comps in the middle grade area. So that's another thing to take a look at on our socials.
Oh, great. Well, you two are so inspiring, and please let me know if there's anything I can ever do to help, but I'm gonna start sharing and talking. And once we're back in school, I think this is something too that we need to make sure that we don't just listen in our libraries, but tell also the teachers that you work with too, because I think that is I look at all your book club books and I think about our teachers at my school, and it's definitely something that we think about a lot and talk about a lot. So I'm grateful for your message and your work and your site. And I love that you were both on today. So thank you.
Thank you. We just want to get that out there and help everybody to be able to find Young Teen Lit for their middle schoolers.
Oh, it's great. It's great. Well, you guys have a great year, and keep inspiring all of us. So thank you for everything.
Thank you so much.
As always, thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for this episode of the Future Ready Librarian podcast series, Leading from the Library. And a very special thank you to our sponsors, Follett Content. You make a difference in our libraries, schools, and within our lives, and that of our students every day. We appreciate everything you do. I hope you can take what you learned in today's podcast and put it to use within your practice as a Future Ready librarian. If I can support you in any way, please feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or X or Instagram at Shannon M. Miller, or at my email at shannonmcclintockmiller@gmail.com. I am always happy to help and support each and every one of you. Until next time, friends, keep finding ways to lead within and from your library.